have been scaring me. I'm trying to dodge these melodies. Oh, I write these songs, I got these melodies. Gotta have a place to vent it. I'm too broke for therapy. I'm too broke for therapy. I just need a shoulder, please. Said that you gon' hold me down. Please do not let go of me. I'm too broke for therapy. I just need a homie. Wonder when gon' judge me before they ever get to know me. See, tough times don't last, tough people do. Felt the wall caving in, so I went through the roof.
Yo, this is Too Broke for Therapy. We're back. I'm here with the team. It's your host with the most in the city with low pity, Dallas. I'm excited, man. We got a great episode for y'all. I'm here with my fam. I got my brother, my aunt, my sister, and a special guest, a person who I've known but haven't known. She's been doing therapy for a little over 10 years now. Close. Great to have her on the couch. Miss Hatter.
You know, it's take a shot, man. You miss every shot she don't take. Let's get it. We introduce ourselves, so you'll introduce yourself as well.
Okay. Well, I'm Melody Hatter. I call myself the Mad Hatter, but I never get
Mad
mad.
Hatter.
All right.
I don't get mad.
Is it
Just don't
doctor?
make me mad. No.
Okay.
I have a master's.
Okay. I didn't want to misrepresent.
Yeah, it's double R. I'm in the building.
You dig?
Yeah.
KKKKK.
Yeah, man, we got a good episode for y'all. We're going to break down some good topics, give the people what they want. Let's dive into it.
All right, great. So, Miss Hatter, thank you for being here with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, 10 years doing therapy. How did you get into that? Because that wasn't too long ago, but that is actually a pretty good amount of time. So, what made you get into it? Were you around people that you felt like could use somebody to talk to? Was it like a personal experience? You were like, okay, you know what? Let me learn more the way I can help others. What was it?
Good question. I started out in retail back in high school, worked at Target for 17 years, and then raised kids, started my own cleaning business. I was always helping people. Wanted to be a nurse, wanted to be a teacher, wanted to be a doctor, physician assistant. And there was a person when I was 18, a friend of my mom's, and she took her own life. And I get a little teary-eyed even now. And I don't know if that precipitated any of this. I really don't. But I thought I was a kid. I couldn't have done anything at that time. But one thing happens after another. And so I got my undergrad in gerontology and then ran nursing homes for 4 years and then left that arena because I couldn't directly help people as much as I wanted. And I thought, I was in my late 40s and I thought, why don't I go to social work? Let me get a master's in social work. So at 50, I graduated with my master's in social work and I did my internship at UT Southwestern in the inpatient unit. It was Zell Lipsche at the time, but it's part of Clements Hospital. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to work in that hospital. Or I was thinking about Parkland, that's the county hospital, but I ended up at UT and I just I did not go into social work to do therapy. I went to help people. But I found myself doing group therapy and individual therapy and just going, okay, we need to help people stay out of the hospital. Yeah. So that was my mission. And I remember I was trying to, motivate people. And I remember my very first group therapy, my supervisor said, go do group therapy. And I said, I was like sweaty and nervous, like, oh my gosh, they're gonna ask me questions. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I went in there and these people were really, in a bad place. And, I'm trying to make their life different, trying to make them smile. And I left that room and I told my staff, I was like, they're really depressed in there. And they all we chuckled and they said, yeah, they're in an inpatient unit. And so I'm like, okay, well, we got to fix this because I heard stories and I was like, we don't need to be sad about those things, or we need to change our mindset. So I worked full time there. I went into the hospital setting. I then went to the emergency room and did the mental health assessments. People coming in for detox or suicidal or needing outpatient, inpatient. Did therapy if I could in the emergency room as much as I could because I didn't know what they were going to get once they, either went inpatient or left. I've always been very resourceful, so I was kind of the resource guru. the psychiatrist would say, they could see my discharge list of all these resources and always calling me, can you find this, can you find that? And so I did my clinical social work. You have to do 2 years after you graduate and all of that, and then you get your license. So I've been in private practice since 2022. As soon as I got my license, I left the hospital setting and said, I'm going to do therapy on my own. And I'm on BetterHelp as well, so I started there. To get in insurance panels, you have to get credentialed, and it's a very long process. So I worked on that while BetterHelp doesn't take insurance, and so I've been on there for 2 years too. I still have clients on there. Some have moved to private practice. And I'm licensed in Iowa, Colorado, and Utah, as well as Texas. So we don't have a compact license right now, so you have to apply to each state. But as soon as the compact gets in and Texas gets in, they're my home state, Texas will be the last to do anything, as we all know.
Man.
So once they get in, then I can be licensed in whatever states are in the compact. And that would be good, because people travel, you can't ask someone to get in a different therapist if they're in a different state. I mean, that's not continuity of care. So my mission is to keep people out of the hospital. And, if I could help everybody, I would. Obviously, I know I'm not going to be able to do that, but my passion was working with people that are suicidal, depressed, anxious.
Now, is this all ages, or do you have
Adults.
a certain
Adults. I work with adults. I thought about doing adolescents. That's a tough crowd. But if we have more therapists working with adolescents, maybe they won't grow up to be adults with the issues.
Yeah.
So, but right now it's 18 and up, and even 18, 19 gets a little, they're still pretty young. But I have a wide range of, 20 and up. I think by far, two big issues coming to therapy are breakups, and
Hey, that heart, man.
That's how I met her.
That heart.
tough.
Love is blind.
Love it.
It'll
Right.
take
And I've
over
been there.
your
I've
mind.
been there. So I feel I can bring some practical knowledge to that. There's a lot of work environments that are toxic, so I see a lot of that. But yeah, a lot of breakups and environmental issues. So
You
I'm
said
doing the best.
something earlier that kind of stuck out. You said mindset. You was like, I got to change their mindset. Do you feel like mindset has a lot to do with, I guess, things that lead into depression? Or, like, what made you say that? Because you were like, I got to change their mindset.
A lot of things go into depression. I mean, you've got clinical depression. Environment plays a huge role. I mean, our past, if someone has trauma in their past. There's a lot of different, I've followed a guy named Steve Alardi, and he says depression is a disease of civilization, because back in the olden days, there was no depression. I mean, there were hunters and gatherers, and, they had purpose. They were out, they were exercising because they were, hunters and gatherers. And so we've kind of evolved into, I think, a more depressive society, and even a more anxious society, because we're attached to our phones.
Absolutely.
I mean, phone addiction is probably in the works right now to be in the next DSM-5. It's not in there right now, but
Be in the next what?
the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic manual for diagnosing. I mean, it's for insurance purposes and stuff. So,
So
caffeine
phone addiction is going to be something you can say, my kid's addicted to their phone, and I
He's
can.
got to have his phone on him.
You
I
can
can
be
get help.
diagnosed with a phone addiction.
at some point, probably.
An
Probably
attachment
so.
issue?
Probably so. And
Or
it's
like
not
a-
just the kids. I have adults.
Oh yeah, I know some
mean,
adults that for sure.
It's a,
Right now,
it's,
addicted to their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Y'all
it's-
crazy.
It's ruining marriages. People are attached to their phone. Nobody can.
No,
you
okay,
go to a
15
restaurant, you look at everybody
Yeah,
and all that.
15. I saw a girl get her
Nobody
phone
talk
taken
no
up in
more.
school. She started crying. Like, you can't take my
Yeah.
phone. And if you had your phone in class, they used to take your phone. You had to get like 15,
Yeah.
$20 to get it back.
Yeah.
Ah,
She wasn't
remember
having
that?
it.
$20. I do
And
remember
like
that.
I feel like her people had the bread. It wasn't about the money. She was just like, no, you can't take my phone. Like, broke down, had to go to the office. It was a whole thing.
But it's also your personal space. But before we get too deep, I do want to establish so Miss Hatter, when I was going through a really, really deep time, that's how I met you. I think I had made a post because I was really going through suicidal thoughts after a breakup. We talked about it, and I was like, I had to reset my whole entire life, and it really, really broke me down. And I remember like you hit me up on Facebook, and I was just like at the right time. So when you said that, like you really you find it important to make sure people don't go to hospitals or take it to that next level. Like you really did reach out to me and like we had conversations, and you didn't charge me $1. I didn't even have $1 to give you, but you didn't charge me $1. Call me every day. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning, like 1 o'clock in the morning. Where you at? What's going on? Talk to me. We've been on the phone for like an hour and a half, and it just blossomed into like a beautiful thing, and like you helped me out. So thank you for sure for that. So I
Was that 2 years ago? That's been.
yeah, it's been 2
Well,
years.
here's what happened. So I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on there like every single. I'm not posting stuff. But
Mario,
one
right?
of our friends,
Okay,
one of
my
their
bad.
kids. I didn't know him,
Yeah.
and I get a tag. Mario tagged me on, and I'm like, so when I see a tag from Mario, I'm not in a hurry to go do anything. I was like, okay, it's a tag from Mario. It could be Mavericks, or it could be something. But when I went there and I saw his post, I said, oh, holy cow, this person is.
Like a crack.
And I went through.
I was-
I went through. This is what I do. I went through Jerome's face. First of all, I went through there, all of his, and I didn't see anything else that was like that.
Negative or sad.
And so I thought, okay, but I could tell by what he said, this is a cry for help. And so I said, okay, first of all, I told Mario, I said, don't tag me like that. I said, if you see somebody like that, I said, you call me.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone, call me, because I'll get on it right away. And so I sent him a message through Facebook because I thought, I didn't, his Facebook page said he lived in Oklahoma. I'm not licensed in Oklahoma. That doesn't mean I'm not going to help somebody. I'm going to disregard licensure to help somebody.
That's what's
and
up.
Deal with it in the courts or whatever. If they want to sue me. Okay,
Big
fine.
picture.
Keep it gangster.
See you in court, and I wanted to let him be the one that kind of came to me, but I was like, hey, but I said, I see you're in Oklahoma, and he said, no, I'm actually. I said, well, then I'm here.
Free game.
So he was hesitant, and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know me, like, who is this person?
I knew the hatter because I knew your sons, but
Yeah,
I was
like
just
that,
like, at the time, I wasn't even checking my messages. Like I already had my mind made up. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not. It is what it is.
Well, I was really worried. I reached out to his family.
Say what you want to say. It's what
When
we here
had you
for,
been all out of shape?
bro. I really have we talked about this for real? We
Yeah,
haven't.
Remember he was listening to I Feel Like Dying by Lil Wayne. And
Nah, that was not it. What? That's not it.
Well, we talked,
I
we
never
talked
said
about-
that.
You did. That one episode where we were talking about.
I was saying that music can definitely
That was me.
involve that. That was him. That had never.
Sorry.
Lil Wayne didn't make me want to do nothing. But anyway,
That's not what I said, but
I know that's what you said, but I'm saying she tried to
The music.
cross reference. It had nothing to do with music. I had to reset my entire life, and it was a few things. I think it was guilt that
You weren't with your daughter.
I wasn't with my daughter. She was in Oklahoma at the time. I had really lost everything. I think what it was that made me feel suicidal was just like, I think it was like a rush of everything that happened. Like, I wasn't near my daughter. Like, my daughter's in Oklahoma, and I couldn't even get near her. And I was used to having her often, if not like every other day. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows I'm in Emory all the time. And I had moved to Dallas because I had to reset. But like, I was living a whole life. Like I had a whole family, like in Oklahoma. I had a whole situation in Oklahoma. And I wasn't perfect, bro. I think that like, it was also just reflecting, and I feel like a shitty ass human being, like from all the shit I did. You know what I'm saying? And like when you really reflect and realize like,
Is this what caused the reset? Your shittiness is what made you
no,
reset?
what made me reset is just her just being like, I'm done. And like, I've never had nobody, that's part of it, but like, then I had to literally move out. But I gave everything to that girl. Like, I gave everything to that girl. Something about like, whenever I went on tour, I made sure everybody was good, fed. I was on the side doing my shit, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't loyal. I'll be the first one to say that. But like, a lot of men, we get to the point where we really think that like, shorty gonna stay. You know what I'm saying? Like, she gonna stay, and you don't really understand like that it's
When
not.
a woman's fed up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But it was just that, and then just really reflecting on myself, and it was almost like I'd figured out what the problem was, but it was too late. It was
Yeah.
too late.
It ain't
You know what I'm
funny, I'm
saying? No, you're good. It was
So
just, it was too late.
Your post on Facebook, did you literally say like I'm out, like I'm gonna do this?
I think I said like I was this close. I really needed help. I'm talking about it was.
Yeah, he-
It got to the point
he
where
said-
I
he said-
didn't.
He actually said, I'm looking for a therapist. He said, if anybody knows of a therapist.
Yeah, I was scared.
need a therapist.
It was to the point where, bro, I didn't even want to wake up.
Yeah.
Like I hated living. Like, and this is like I just moved here. Everybody hit me up, bro. What's up? Da, 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 da. I don't even worm, bro. I'm in my apartment, not talking to nobody. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really like, bro. I'm just trying to keep myself alive. Like it was really like. But the only thing that made me really hit her back is that Cam Bryant had a fucking barbecue, and this nigga Cam brought his kids, and like everybody had their family, and I was like, I need to live for my daughter. That was the only thing. And then after that, I was like, really, I was getting ready to do it every day. I was ready to go, but like that happened, and then Kevin Security Danny called me at a random time, bro, and was just like, yo, don't do it. And he's not the only person that kind of do that kind of shit. And he just kind of talked me through it. And I was like, I gotta live for my daughter. And I was like, but I really couldn't. I really physically was like, I can't do this shit. I was really weak. You know what I'm saying? So I asked for help, and I really needed a real therapist. I ain't need nobody to tell me it's gonna be good or tell me you're this and this and that. Like none of that shit meant nothing to me. I didn't care about who I worked for. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about none of that shit. It was really just like it was ugly.
And I know you. So in that time, were you believing in God around that time?
Yeah, God couldn't
Miss
save
Hatter,
me.
do you believe in God? Okay.
God couldn't save me.
I don't practice any religious therapy or Christian-based therapy. I think there's a place for that. But the people that I've talked with that have gone to that, I don't know that that is helping them manage conflict and all that, because it's coming from a very Christian-based standpoint. And I want to correct something, though, because you said what a lot of people say is you said I was weak. And you're not weak.
Thank
Like-
you. You are not
Well, you know what's
weak.
crazy though,
And
but
no one
in our
is
culture,
weak.
we get told that you're weak. Like
Right.
I ain't gonna lie. Me
You was
personally, if I would have did that shit, if I would have saw somebody do that, I would have been like they weak. Especially if they got a kid.
Sure, yeah.
I would have been like, damn, that was some bitch
gave
ass
up.
shit to do. Like that's what I would have
Because
said.
our thinking
Excuse my
and
language.
our feeling comes from our culture and the
Yeah.
way we were raised.
Yeah.
And that's why we all have differences in the way we think and our perspectives, is because we weren't raised in the same household. We weren't raised in the same culture or the same neighborhood or the same city or the same church
Situations and
religion
circumstances.
or anything. We weren't raised, we were raised differently. So when we feel a certain way, it's coming from all that is us,
Yeah.
culture, religion.
And that's what really
everything.
hit me and really hit me hard, was just that everything came to a head of like you ever felt like, damn, you really fucking up? Like you ever been in a moment where you like, damn, I'm really fucking, I might be just fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like it really hit me like,
Were you just taking L's after L's after L's?
no, just realizing how much bullshit you really did. Like you just sit back and be like, damn, I'm really not. Like I'm really fucking up, bro. Like I really need to get my shit together in the sense of
Do
like.
you feel like,
I
what do
can't
you
believe
do
I
when
do
you
that.
feel like you fucking up?
By that time, I done got hit upside the head with a phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then, you be like, well, damn.
But you're not
It wasn't
getting
like a
hit. I'm
wake-up
not
call.
getting hit upside. All I'm getting is praise and love, because at that time I'm peaking, bro. I'm going on tour. I'm the biggest photographer in Oklahoma. I'm getting like no one's telling me what I'm doing. I'm doing fucked up shit, but no one's telling me. Same like if you think I'm not trying. I'm
It's
not
just
even.
always
I'm not
good
even
job,
gonna,
Jerome.
Well,
or-
that's
Yeah,
what we were
it was
talking
that.
about. Being
Dang,
around
I can't
people
believe
that
you're
are
doing
not
it.
like being honest with you. That's why it's important to seek a therapist who can be honest
Yeah.
with you, because a lot of times your friends, they won't point out the bad things that you're doing because it's like, oh,
which
you're
is
my
why
friend.
I never went to my friends, because I was just like, all they're gonna tell me is I'm gonna be all right. You gonna be all right. You gonna be straight, bro. You tripping, da da da.
Which is true.
One thing.
Were
But
we
that's
wrong?
not what you need though.
Were we
Like
wrong?
at the time. No, bro. You need like you gotta understand, bro. When you're in that moment, you need some real answers, because this is like this is really that moment. Like this is you need some shit that you don't like. You need something different.
So what was it that you were able to provide for him, or how is it like? Were you more so just like someone to listen? And like, is that what you needed in that time, or what? Like, how
How did
did
she help
you
you?
counsel him?
Good question. I'm gonna let you bring it up.
I think that one, I did know her, so it helped for me to be able to just
How did,
fully.
but not really, because I mean, you knew.
I knew
you
of
my-
you,
knew
but
my
I didn't
kids,
really,
but
I didn't
know
really,
you at
I
all.
didn't know you like enough to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could just really open up to you without worrying about, like, I felt safe because whether you knew my business or not, it didn't matter compared to like if I told somebody else, you never know how people take your information and use it. Like, we just had a conversation about that. Like, it's hard to trust people because you never know how they gonna use your information later on. I might tell you how I'm feeling, and 3 years later, you might, yeah, remember when you said X, Y, and Z? You're like, damn, that's what we, people are fucked up. So I'd rather go to somebody that I don't know and just is
Right.
completely objective and looking at this as, here's somebody that just needs help. And you reached out to me, and I forgot what you said, but the message wasn't like, I'm just saying this because I know you and it's just something to do. I'm saying this because, like, I don't even know you.
I got the message.
I really need.
Yeah,
you ain't
I'm
gotta do all
trying to
that.
see. So
No,
she
you ain't gotta
created
do
a
all that.
safe space for you, and you felt like you could be vulnerable.
I needed help, and she was somebody that I didn't know that could help me, and I didn't even know how to look for a therapist, find a therapist, and honestly, like, that's another thing, and I don't want to focus fully on me, but like, segment to that is that, like, how many of us on this couch have been to therapy by sign, like, went to a therapist? Show of hands. Like, really went to therapist.
Think-
Okay, so just two.
I-
Now, how many of us have been to a therapist consistent, like every like consistent showing up?
I've never
talking
been to
them?
therapy.
Okay,
ever.
so like that's the thing. I've never been to therapy either. I didn't even know how to look for a therapist. I didn't even know how to go there. So like, especially in our culture, we have to piggyback and handle shit on our own, and we get told that you crazy or you're like you're tripping or you weak or you
Go watch
whatever.
TV or go play the
Yeah.
game.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of like actually getting real mental help, because bro, we go through some real, like, as kids, like poverty and poverty, you
trauma
really
stuff,
go
bro.
through some. You see some shit like early on that you don't even know how to like really handle, but you handle it in whatever way you can
Living
handle.
life. You
So-
don't know what it is.
Are y'all okay? Are y'all okay?
That's
See,
a good question.
I'm okay, but what do you say? What do you think?
All right, listen. I'm not a big firm believer in therapy. Like, I talk to God, okay?
Okay.
And I got a moral compass, okay? So, like she stated, we all handle our traumas or our past, but not bring it up differently.
Yeah.
And there's like, I talked to you about it. I've been in a moment before where I had an argument with my therapist. Me and God arguing while I'm riding down the road. That's how I shattered my femur. A lot of folks don't know that, but that's how I shattered my femur. All because of a breakup. What we doing? What we doing? What we doing?
But is it actually the breakup, or is it everything that comes with the breakup? I don't think for me it was the
You gotta
breakup,
take-
but it's
take
everything.
your
That
well, let's
lick.
ask a therapist.
Take your lick. Take your lick. You was acting a fool. I was acting a fool. You know we be acting a fool. Take your lick. A lot of us don't like taking our lick.
That's also something that you need to go to therapy for.
So you wanna kill yourself?
No, I don't think
No,
that's
no,
why.
that's giving up.
I think that's simplifying.
lick.
I think
You,
that's
when you say
simplifying.
take your lick, are you saying like feel and go through what you're going through and then come out of it? Is that what you're saying?
He's saying, you made that bed laying. You know what you were doing when you
Yeah.
were doing
Okay.
wrong. You were sleeping good then. Now that she finds out and she's done, she's checked out, you got to go, or this is no longer a thing. Now you're weak. Now I need help.
Yeah.
You
But
weren't doing that when
to
you
me-
had-
Now
to
you
me-
wanna jump off the cliff.
To me, that's
You
simplifying it into a
You was
breakup.
swimming naked with the other girl.
City to
Now you
city,
wanna jump off the cliff.
road
Get out of here
running,
with all that.
No,
And
but
I
Love
would say
hurts.
Not just about Jerome, but I mean, anybody that comes to therapy, it's not necessarily the breakup. There's a lot of core issues that are playing out that sometimes we don't know are there. And we identify those, and we're
Yeah.
not gonna talk about all those. But we have to identify the core issue. Why are we this upset over a breakup? And so most people, it's,
They don't want to be
they wanna
alone.
be alone.
Do you feel like a lot of it was you've never been the one who didn't decide when the relationship ends?
I think a little bit of it was that control.
Okay.
Right? I think a little bit of that's control for sure. But I think that here's another thing. So let's not make it just about the breakup.
Well, she was about to tell
But-
it how it gets a little deeper from
And
a,
I
a
and I and I'm
therapist.
about to let you finish. I promise.
That's what I'm
Okay.
But let's and tell me if
Because
I'm
we hear
wrong.
you every day,
And tell
Brom.
me if
I
I'm
talk all day long.
tell me if I'm wrong, Miss Hatter. If you come from a place of like say poverty, right? And you were always hustling since you've been a kid to always be going to get it, to always be moving. You don't come to a house where you can come home and just chill. So you got to get it, right? You got to figure out how to work and everything else that comes with it. My mama was not around when I was like, you went to my crib, 15. I got to figure out how I'm going to get food, how I'm going to do this, X, Y, and Z, and we got a plan. So when you come around something that truly loves you and gives you calm, still, and stability, that shit feels weird at first.
Yeah, when you're not used to it.
You don't even, like, you could be the best girlfriend ever, but that man might not have ever had nobody love him, and he might take that and not know what to do with it because to him,
It's foreign
it's
territory.
weird. It's not a bad weird, but it's also like you just don't know. Like
Yeah,
if
you're
you're
not
used
doing
to
So
being
because
wrong.
you don't know,
He
you're
just
cheating.
he
Okay,
doesn't
because
know
we
how
got
to
to bring it back
respond
to
or
what we're
show
talking
love
about,
or
right?
respond
Therapy.
It's
to
not
that type
about
of thing.
cheating, and it's therapy. I'm saying this is all therapy. This is all childhood traumas.
Mm-hmm.
This is all things that lead into that
big boom.
Yes.
the cheating that leads to
So
breakup.
you're saying you didn't realize what you had, or you were not used to being loved that certain kind of way, so that caused
You might have
to.
uncles and family, uncles and cousins. All my uncles, every uncle I have is cheated on his wife. Every cousin I've had is cheated. When I was a kid, my cousin, I remember being in the back, bro. Back when we had home phones, he'd be like 12 years old, 13 years old, like
Men
out
cheat.
Jeremy.
We
bro.
But
You know what I'm
that's-
saying? Like,
I understand
talk
that.
to one girl, hit flash. Hold on real quick, my mama calling. Hit flash, hello. Yo,
So
what's
those are
up?
the
Yeah.
examples that you
So
saw
like,
growing up.
that's the culture you have growing up, and you think, oh, that's how I'm trying to be a player. I'm watching
So-
this, I'm watching that. This is how it's supposed to be. Until you realize, like, damn, that's not really how, you know what I'm saying? It's not healthy and this ain't it. So you only know what you know. And when you see a good person and when we see good people, like you know this. When you see somebody good, you always think, nigga, what's your approach? What are you really trying to get? You know that you always think first, like, what's really going on?
What's your
That's
angle?
not.
What's your angle?
You should
Anybody out
never
there.
try to
But
think.
that's
like,
how people think when you come from certain places. That's just life.
What's your agenda?
That's
what's your
growth that
agenda?
needs to be had within
And
yourself.
that is part of why you need therapy. So let's not make it about a breakup and like,
Yeah, 'cause I
oh,
don't I
it's
honestly
not that.
think- I go back to our sessions we had. We talked about everything that happened, but we didn't focus on, it wasn't the breakup that we focused on.
It's
We
past.
identified a lot of other things. And I'm doing a lot more assessments now than I was even doing, I
Really?
think, with
Yeah.
you. And so
I was
identifying.
inconsistent too.
I think, so first of all, every therapist comes from a different place, a different reason they are a therapist. Just like any other profession, there's some good ones, there's some not so good ones, you know. I don't know everything, and I tell everybody, I don't have no magic pill. People come to therapy, and I'm like, first of all, what are your expectations, right? I don't have some magic bullet or pill or, you know, recipe to get rid of your anxiety or your depression. You know,
gotta
I
work
don't
through
have
it.
that. I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of things that I'm going to give you. We're gonna talk about things. We're gonna assess self-esteem. I look at self-esteem, and we're talking CEOs, executives. I mean, everyone has a brain.
Yeah.
Right. And we are all okay until we're not.
Ms. Hatter, do you feel like in your profession that, like even in your profession when you're licensed and sworn to an oath to like help people or to do as much as you can for any individual that is your patient, do you feel like there's still people that show up to work to like do that? And there's still people that just show up to get paid?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been in therapist forums, and I'm always the outlier. I'm always the one that steps in and says, hold on, let's think about this differently. But I've been in therapist forums, and I have been astonished at what I'm hearing therapists. I mean, it's like, can we go back to why we became a therapist? Why are we a therapist, right? And it's, I don't understand why some, and I've heard stories from clients that say, you know, I had a therapist, and this is what happened. Because I always ask, if you've been in therapy before, what went well, what didn't work? Because I don't want to repeat the same thing, right? And just some of the things I hear, I'm just like,
I brought that up because I wanted to know, have you came in contact with a person who's had a different therapist and they were going through a crisis in their life, and then you kind of had to
Clean up.
cleanup, like kind of do double work, because now
They don't
still
trust
dealing
you,
with stuff
or-
from back then that they didn't get right from this therapist. Now I gotta open up differently with a new stranger. Hopefully she doesn't do me wrong, rob me blind
Right.
in my time of need and crisis when I'm at my lowest. Think I need somebody, I'm reaching
yeah.
for help.
Yeah.
Can you share as much as you can, like a situation where you've had to deal with that situation?
Well, I've had a lot. I mean, like I said, I don't know everything. I am not, the best therapist ever. I think I'm genuine, and I care, and I think that's
Two
one
big
thing you said
factors.
is like I can tell you care about me. I care about people,
Yeah.
and so I think that comes across in the first session. That okay, this is a genuine person. She actually
It's
cares
always a
about
good
people,
feeling.
right? And I've had people come to therapy and they say, I've learned more in the hour I spoke with you than I did in the whole
Years that I've
6 sessions or whatever that I have with another therapist. And I think it's because I ask questions. I'm not just listening. I'm listening to ask another question. I'm trying to get to the
Bottom
root
of
the
it,
problem.
right?
yeah.
We're not just going to treat anxiety. We're going to treat we're going to find out
Causing
what's
it.
causing anxiety.
Right.
Right. Let's try to find
Let's
out.
do a little digging. Yeah.
Let's try to do a little digging and find out. Some people don't want to dig, and I think that's why they don't want to go.
It's part of the work.
Because I do couples too, and that's a whole other podcast. But some people don't want it. They because when they come, they're like, yeah, I knew we were going to have to talk about that, and they don't want to.
Don't wanna open
talk
up.
about it.
You
But
feel like a lot of that has to do with the accountability that they have on their end? Like the part they played that led to the anxiety, the separation, depression, and whatever they're dealing with. Like, do you find that it's hard for people to really look in the mirror when it's time to dig and reflect?
Sure, and there's a lot of coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms to keep me from doing that, right? I think a lot of people don't, we don't want someone to say there's something wrong with you. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be viewed as something, and we're not doing that as we shouldn't be doing that. But everyone struggles with something. So when I have an individual come and they say, my boyfriend says I need to go to therapy, or my spouse says I need to go to therapy, and I'm like, he probably needs therapy too. Or,
You had no crazy episodes?
I mean, do what?
Have you had any crazy episodes?
And by crazy, I don't
Like
like
somebody
to use
like-
the word crazy, but what
like-
define crazy?
Here we go.
They come in there and talk to you, and they start talking about they finna kill a lot of people, then they gonna kill themselves. Have you ever tried to talk somebody down off that ladder?
I've probably had that in the emergency room. People were either psychotic or inebriated. Because if they came to, I'd have to say you need to call somebody.
Oh, so have you ever called somebody on somebody?
We would have to call somebody. But no, I was on my way home to get into another session, and I had a client call me, and he normally doesn't call me, and he was very distraught. It was a breakup. I mean, I'm telling you, breakups
That's
are
crazy.
not pleasant. How many of us here have been through a breakup?
Everybody.
He was in
A real breakup though, not that soft ass puppy love shit.
but they tend to dicks. That's
How
all.
many
They
people
tend
have?
to-
Oh my God.
No.
See what I'm saying, bro? But here's the
okay.
thing, bro. Hold on. Can we?
Let me ask one question. Let me ask one
So
question.
you didn't have a tough
How many
breakup?
men in here, raise your hands, it's tender dicks? How many of you tender dicks?
Rome,
I ain't tended it.
you was upset about a
How
breakup.
many
That
of
don't make you
dicks when
tender
get
dick.
That's
off-
what he's
when you get off
saying.
in it?
So tender is like sensitive, for y'all don't know, tender dicking is like, and we can't even
I
really
don't know
say
if I
this.
wanna ask, but-
So it's like basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like
Sensitive.
you're real sensitive about your
Behind the
girl. You're
woman.
really
Yeah.
sensitive about your
Yeah.
lady.
Play about
You're
your
in
rib.
love. You're
And
in
like
love.
so say your
Very
girl's
in
talking
love.
to
Yeah.
like say
Well, no, I ain't not jealous. I don't want you to get
jealousy goes into tender.
Yeah, nah, well,
it does. That's
I
the
got
main.
full
That's one of the
All
main
my
things.
crash outs
How many people have had their
behind
heart
mine.
broken?
Like had a real heartbreak.
Tell your Xbox.
Like
don't
you
play
ain't
with me,
ate
bro.
for a few days. Like you really been like,
Like we were in the
Okay.
fetal position.
can we get a pen of everybody in here? Like, can we get a pen of everybody even behind the scenes?
Raise your hand if you've
I
had your
probably
heart
did.
broke.
I mean,
Yo, can we get a
Oh,
pen?
okay.
Is everybody somebody recording everybody? Because I want to see this.
Yeah.
So we got like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Everybody
5, 6,
except
7,
Cam.
8, 9 real
I
heartbreaks
mean,
in here.
anybody, I think anybody who's been in a relationship that hasn't been married since high school and
Besides you.
is-
I'm sorry, bro.
has probably had a
Hunter
breakup.
had his heart broke, baby. Let me raise my hand. My
Yeah,
bad.
keep
Yeah.
it, keep it, but
What was her name? Huh?
nuh-uh.
What was her name?
That the name.
How many
I'm
people
shouting
not
out.
giving credit?
I ain't shouting out to nothing to
They
nobody.
I ain't been right since Tony Stark died.
God
To be
broke
real.
my heart because he helped me get caught cheating. Hell,
Oh, man.
yeah, that's what broke my heart.
The
God.
problem is, and it,
She wasn't here.
Clip
people
that.
say, you made me mad, he made me this, he broke my heart, and all this. Nobody makes us feel a certain way. Like I said earlier, when we feel, it comes from other stuff, right? So I've been through heartbreak, many, many times, and so, yeah, as many people have. But as I've gotten older, I have realized, no, I allowed my heart to get broken.
Talk to
And
him.
I do have, we do have some control over our thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts. They're just thoughts. But when we attach meaning to them, that's when they become a problem, and we spiral. It's
That's
like a
What's
balloon.
funny? I want to hear because he when you said you got your heart broke, he gave you a crazy look as if that's impossible. Now he's laughing. So let's get some therapy.
Yeah,
sessions.
Miss
We
Howard,
got a
remember I told you I
therapist.
wanted-
Hold on, we
he
have a
needs-
therapist
Why
here.
would you look at me funny?
Well, here's
You're
the thing.
right.
Here's the thing about we've been needing you to come up here because I love to see this one-on-one right here. So what's funny? I want to hear what you think. I
He
want
has
Well,
a
no,
shovel.
when she said that
he
she
doesn't
got-
want to do any digging.
No, she
I
said
need
that
you to
she
help
had
him
her
dig.
heart broken. I just wanted to hear how she jumped back on the pole. What happened, But just get back on the saddle. So don't heart got broken. Start swinging that thing again,
Yeah.
Because she wasn't like some of you niggas who raised y'all hands, ready to jump off the cliff.
Right, right.
Wait,
She
hold
jumped
on.
back
Or
on
maybe
the pole.
she
That's not
was.
being
That's
Team
not. We don't know
Timberwolves.
her story.
I will be transparent.
Let's get
There
that
was,
understood
and
as the
I'm not gonna give the
spokesperson.
person any credit by naming who, and it was a musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You gotta be
Okay,
careful
let me
about those
find out what she singing to you, girl. Let me find out.
But, and it's a whole, I've actually done I did a 30-day journal. I encourage a lot of my clients to journal. And if they're going through
Ooh,
something
it's so
really,
good.
really challenging, do a challenge for 30
I
days.
I
Journal
struggle
for
with
30
it.
days. And you don't have to journal every single day. It doesn't have to be about negative things. It can be about positive. But I decided in that moment, that was a turning point in my life in 2016, where I said, my friend actually said, you've been bamboozled. That's the word she used. And
Happens to the best of us, bro.
and I'm like, what just happened to me? And that was
Feed you with the hammer.
that was, that
Oh
was,
my God,
and
no.
I wasn't even really in a relationship. It's a whole story.
I
If I
know.
ever publish my 30 pages or whatever of my book, I've written down, and then I created rules of a breakup from that. right?
Nice. We need
I
those.
created rules of a breakup, and not medically reviewed or anything, but I created my rules.
I'll take a copy of the book.
And,
Me too.
and I've shared it with people as I've worked with them, because I decided in that moment, okay, that person does not deserve anything from me. He doesn't deserve I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to. I said my piece, and then I said that's it. He has, when somebody does that to you, you have the right to say, you know what, you don't get to see inside my heart. You don't get to see you don't get to see my emotions. You no longer have that privilege of getting any kind of emotional anything from me.
That's good.
And so I said, I'm going to journal for 30 days. And I was working in the inpatient unit, and I said, I'm going to, pour my soul into work and all of that. And I did. I journaled for 30 days. I'm not a person that's going to take my life. I have kids, and I'm not going to do that. But there were times where,
It's
it's
hard.
like, okay, what's the purpose of living? I think a lot of people have thought that. Just because people are suicidal does not mean they're going to act on it. And I think that's the problem in this country, is we don't talk about it. And so people think, I can't talk about it, because guess what? They're rushing them into an inpatient unit, or they're rushing them to the hospital. And therapists are the same way. If therapists don't know how to deal with people that are
It's
suicidal,
heavy. It's heavy.
yeah, if you don't know how to really approach it, then you freak out and you don't know what to do. And it's like, oh, we got to send. I'm like, why are you sending this person? Well, number one, you need to know
What's
the purpose
causing?
of going to the emergency room. Because let me tell you, if they're voluntary and they go to the emergency room and they want to leave and there's no reason to court order them, they're leaving. And now you've got a person who might, you need to talk with that person. So there's too many, let's just put them in the hospital. It's like, maybe they don't need there, because maybe they go there and it's a worse experience.
Man,
Do you
at all.
prescribe? Because I know you said you have a lot of resources. Do you give medicine?
No, I'm not a prescriber.
Okay.
I'm not a prescriber. I think medicine has its place, but I don't think it should be the first, they will give medication for people who are maybe suicidal. They want to, change that pretty quickly.
They're gonna give you some Tylenol.
And stuff.
So-
But I think we have to, I have to tell so many people, we don't have to respond to everything that happens to us. We don't have to react. But we do. We're emotional beings. We're human beings. And so we have a feeling, we have an emotion, and then we respond to that. How many people respond emotionally when things happen to them?
Almost everybody.
So,
Shout out Pisces gang.
so you have what's called an emotional brain, and you have a rational brain. And
You might be the most
a
emotional.
lot of people work on their emotional brain. Some people work on their rational brain, but then there's the wise mind that's in between. And we have to have space between our emotions and our behavior to be able to say, okay, I'm feeling this way. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do? So, but sometimes we don't. Now, there's impulsivity. There's impulse disorders where people can't control, things, and they become impulsive. But
My wise mind only kick in when I'm in jail. Right out
So-
of arraignment.
But
Damn, why I
most
do
of the
that?
time, we don't have, everybody wants to have the last word, right? I mean, look at social media. It's back and forth. Are there any conversations really being had on social
Right.
media?
No.
You're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
With strangers.
And nothing is getting resolved. It's just back and forth. And people are responding to their emotions, right? I mean, it's happened, how many people see a post and then want to jump in and give your
Give their
opinion?
2
on,
cents.
All the time.
You respond emotionally, and so what we need to do is respond emotionally. So what I'll do is I will respond emotionally in words, but I won't post
Send it.
I have a mental health blog, and I'll throw it on the blog.
Oh, that's good.
And I haven't written in a while, but that's where I'll put, that's where I'll put stuff.
Do you think that emotionally responding is part of like ego too? Like feeling like you have to be heard? You know what I mean? Like, or maybe you weren't heard.
Could be, yeah, could be.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like when you feel like, hey, I feel like a lot of people feel like I need to be heard, so I gotta send that. Like it's cool to be able to write that and put it up, but they're like, no, I gotta send this. You gonna hear what I gotta say.
They need therapy.
That's why I
Why
love
do they
Twitter.
feel like
Twitter
they need
came
to be
out in,
heard?
High school, I could say whatever.
So someone who's dealing with that, say someone is dealing with like emotional impulse, what would you say to them to help them work on not always reacting on that impulsive emotion behavior? And what are some steps that they can have
Resources.
to resources
Get
and steps they can have?
get that shit off.
He said slap them across the head.
First, you have to acknowledge.
Breathe.
With anything, you have to acknowledge you're doing it, right?
But ain't that should be simple to somebody? Ain't like ain't that simple? Like you don't know you out here doing this. A lot of people don't know. Like
I
They
feel
lack
you.
accountability, huh?
To answer your question, I think people know, but they may not know to the extent of what it's doing in the communication. I mean, communication is just a problem all across the board. So I think it's so automatic that some people don't know. They don't see it, right? So we have to talk about it and then acknowledge it. Some people don't want to acknowledge anything, but they have to acknowledge, then they have to become aware. We cannot change what we don't acknowledge or we're not aware we're doing. So we have to acknowledge, okay, I am doing this. And like I said, when I ask people, do you normally respond to your, they're like, yeah, they know they're doing that. They don't necessarily know why. Why am I doing that?
Or how to stop it.
Yeah, why am I doing that? And something is flowing there. So I say, okay, so now we need to be aware. Now, what I do, I'll tell you how we determine a lot of root causes and stuff is I do self-esteem. There's a Rosenberg self-esteem scale. I do that scale. It's like 10 questions.
And what are these questions? Like, are they about like present day or past? Like, what type of questions are on that? Can we Google that and
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
ourselves?
It's a validated scale. It's questions. Do you feel like you're a failure? And you're answering. I strongly agree. I agree.
because who would answer yeah to that?
Well, if you want to be honest,
If you
and you genuinely want to help, then
that's
you
the
need to.
problem that I'm talking about though.
Who answered?
Because that's the problem. If you truly feel that way,
Well, I think.
Why are you hiding your feelings?
But what it says is, all in all, I feel like I'm a failure. And so depending on, it's a self-report. So if you're doing that scale and somebody's going through a really rough time, they lost their job or something, it's possible they're going to answer that based on the way they feel like right now. But it's really talking about, all in all, I feel like I'm a failure. So you're answering strongly agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. So there's questions on there. I'd have to pull it up because I can't remember the questions. But a lot of things on there are, I need to respect myself more. A lot of people want more respect. They don't respect themselves. And that's how they get into situations where, they're not wanted or they're in abusive relationships or something like that. So they want more respect. They feel useless at times. But failure, respect, some people don't have things they feel proud of. And that may come from childhood. Maybe nobody in their family ever said they were doing anything good.
It's deep.
Everything ain't suicide too, by the way.
But it's
You're
deep.
like reading
though.
Now,
everything
if you want to talk
suicide.
imposter syndrome, some of that can be if we.
Wait. Okay, so for those who don't know, what is imposter syndrome?
That's where you might be really good at what you do, but you don't feel it. You feel like, no, they're going to find out. I really don't know what I'm doing, and you're kind of minimizing what you know.
Like I lied on my application. They're gonna find out.
I had imposter syndrome for a long time. I think it comes from especially times when, for me, when I first started working with big artists and stuff, I was like, I don't belong here. Is that what? And I felt
I took
Small
notes.
in the situation.
I didn't
Got
feel.
notes.
Let me give you my
Let's
notes
see.
because McLean is a hospital in Boston, and it's a really good hospital. So when you wanted to talk about imposter syndrome, I wanted to bring the research. So
Love that. Fast. Ooh, let's
My
do
notes.
it.
We coming correct this season.
it's
man.
always good to have notes. Okay. Now, do you know when it started?
It started literally when I stepped on tour with Kevin.
No,
my
not
first,
you.
Oh,
But imposter syndrome.
Oh, you looked at me like you wanted
You're
to
right.
give me a whole.
Ego, man.
I could take a
No.
session.
It was 1978, and it was called imposter phenomenon, and they did some studies. It was a small study, to be honest. 150 women who had earned their PhDs. They were respected in their fields, or students recognized for academic excellence. They believed they weren't bright. Here they have this PhD. You believe you're not bright. So
PhD, and you don't believe that?
some people. Some people do. So you respond negatively when others talk to you positively, or let's say you don't take a compliment very well. You're like, somebody says something, you're like, oh no, and you don't do that very well. There's no single cause, but environment, family dynamics, and the roles people earn early in life are part of the problem. Many may have a sibling that was the intelligent one, so now we have to live up to, the standards, so we may work harder to be smart because our sibling is smart.
Only child.
You were the smart one?
Oh, fool.
Were you the smart one or you only child?
No, I got this.
He's saying he was smarter than his older sibling.
And the youngest
Which is my
one,
mom.
too. Everybody.
Are you middle child or younger?
Including his dumb ass too. Okay.
I went to
all
college.
of them.
Are you in the middle or younger?
I'm the middle. I'm the bad one.
Oh, well, that explains.
Exactly.
What does that explain? Can we elaborate that
He
real
made
quick?
good grades, so he thought his attitude
He's in the
didn't
middle.
matter.
Listen.
Now, you can go the opposite because if you're praised too much for just doing everything, everything is good, even though maybe not, as a child, then you when you grow up and you realize, okay, I'm not really good at that, then you start thinking, well, they must have lied to me when I was a kid because I'm not really good at that, right? So it can come from different places.
Nobody cares that you got straight A's on.
You might
I
rely
guess
on
that's
other
what you-
people's opinions for your worth, and you
That's that
don't.
imposter syndrome, I guess. Cause like my mama tell you, everybody say I was smart. She'll tell him in a minute. Only in school, you bad as hell when you get home. Very bad, very bad, very bad.
And you just said you was bad. So see how that took. See how.
So it's
But my grades covered it up.
But you didn't say that. You told her when she said you the middle child. You said yeah, and I'm bad. So you took
I
that
know
part.
I'm bad.
No, you not. You just
I
took
feel
that
like
part
when you
was told.
label,
you mean? No.
maybe you were
That's what's
labeled
wrong
that
with
as a
people
kid,
jumping
so
off the
you
cliff.
ran
But
with
you don't
that.
feel like you ran with that because she was telling you that.
No.
It's mental. It's deep.
You don't want to dive into it. I see you deflected, so I'm gonna let it go.
No, I'm
gonna deflect.
I
You're
know
bad.
what I'm doing.
You're
Now
not a
you
bad
know,
person.
you want to know what to do with imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
Okay.
let her finish.
So research says group therapy is good. Now, I honestly think group therapy, people don't like group therapy, right? They're like, I don't want to go talk group. But I really think if you have a good group therapist, that group therapy can be good because you can, now in the inpatient unit, we had people there from all, I mean, it's like younger, older, I mean, not adolescents, but they were there for different reasons. So you couldn't really specifically, I mean, you even had to be careful if you were talking about suicidal things because some people in there be like, well,
Might be
what?
triggered.
I'm not suicidal. I'm freaked out. I don't want to be in here with people that are.
Inpatient is forced entry, outpatient is come on your own.
Inpatient is hospitalization
Yeah.
for stabilization.
Not forced,
Yeah,
but
doctor.
recommended.
Yeah.
Forced.
Court order.
You can you can voluntarily go in.
That's outpatient.
Now, that's inpatient.
Outpatient is either partial hospital, which is you just go, you don't stay in the hospital.
You don't spend the night.
You go there for 2 weeks or so, and it's like group therapy, and then you do even further. An IOP is intensive outpatient, where you do 3 times a week. It's really group therapy. But you're learning that there's other people, usually in group therapy, you're put in with the same age group, or you're put in with people that are very similar. So somebody with imposter syndrome would do well with that because they can talk to other people who feel the same way and realize, okay, this, I don't feel alone. But also, which I have my clients, I want them to do some of this is, create a compliment jar. Every time you get a compliment, write it down, put it in a little jar. When you're
for
feeling
self-esteem.
down, I knew he was going to laugh about it.
I laughed a little bit too, but that's
That is
sad.
so good, though.
Isn't that sad that we
Like,
can't
that,
compliment
because
ourselves?
for me, like,
You gotta be some data boys.
I've
Data
never,
boy.
I've never
You did a good
had
job.
a therapist.
Give me a high
But
five.
that's good because you deposit like positive thoughts in your mind, and then like subconsciously you start to believe it, so you start to become that person.
Sure.
I did my own therapy. I read books about like just like relearning things, and it was a lot about positive reinforcement. I used to have sticky notes. You're amazing. You're gonna do great things. Like it, and my ex thought it was so corny. He would laugh at me like, "You got this shit on the wall." Like, what up? Like, and I'm just like, I need this for me. Like, this has nothing to do with you. This is for me. And so after seeing that every morning, I started to believe that, and it did wonders for me. And now,
Do you feel like if he would have did that for you, you wouldn't have had to, and you really needed that from your spouse to support a person?
it wasn't about him. It was for me.
But I'm asking you because you obviously felt like it was missing, and you had to go find it on your own. Usually in relationships, I don't know how
So
everybody does a relationship. People will tend to lean on their person for.
And that's the problem, because if I'm depending on someone else to make me happy, then the minute that they stop, I'm
You crash.
shit out of luck.
Damn, she that's not what I meant. But that's good that you.
You hit the nail on the head.
Thank you.
And so, since we're talking about couples, I mean, I feel like I could just do therapy for breakups, and I mean, it could just be all about relationships. But I have more people come to therapy and they say, he's not treating me well. He's doing
making me
this.
happy.
Why is he doing this? Why is he ignoring me? Why is he doing whatever it is he's doing? Or it could be the other way around. Why is she treating me? And so the first thing I say is, we're asking the wrong question. What's the question that you should be asking?
What is it? You tell me. Shut up, man.
Nah, you've been in therapy.
The
I know, but I don't wanna
question you
take-
should be asking yourself, if anybody in this room is being treated terribly or they're being, not valued, is, why am I tolerating that?
Ooh, that's the question.
Or were you celebrated, not
That is
tolerated?
the question. Why the heck am I
Because you don't love
tolerating that?
yourself, or you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe you don't deserve that. You think this is all that you deserve.
Or you can normalize
We
that, too.
cannot change the behavior of another individual unless we tie them down and, try to
But can I-
force them.
but-
You cannot change the behavior of another person. I've heard so many people say, oh, I got married, I was going to change him, I was going to change her, and you know what, it didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't work, did it? That didn't
See,
work
like, I
in your
feel like
favor.
that's.
So
I feel
you
like I
cannot
changed a lot
change
when I got in
another
my
person.
relationship.
You can only change yourself. You can influence. You can have influence over someone if they want to be influenced, and some people don't want to be influenced. So I use the Gottman method in my couples therapy. If anybody wants to look it up, and you're in a
Gotham?
relationship, look up the Gottman method.
Spell it, G-O-D.
Gottman. Gottman.
Okay, got it.
There's a book.
Yeah, I was like,
there's a
Gotham.
video, Making a Marriage Work.
We'll
They
put a
talk
link in the
about-
bio.
They do a lot of stuff there. So I think it's a great, there's other methods, obviously, there's other different methods, but it really, I've had success with my couples in staying together and the ones who want, I mean, if you want to stay together, you're going to make it work no matter what. But we're asking the wrong questions, you know, and then we probably have a pattern of, if we want to talk about relationships, we find ourselves dating the same type of people. You know, why are we attracted to these people? And I'll be transparent, I was in an abusive relationship at 17, and now as I, and you're probably going to be like, well, how did that happen? You know, good question, you know. But as I reflect back on it, I allowed myself to be in that. Now, with the knowledge I had at the time, I mean, what did I know? But I mean, we're talking kicking and hitting and, you know, for a year.
Now, did you, but as a 17-year-old, did you see that in your childhood? Is that maybe why you thought it was normal? Okay.
No, I did not see that in my childhood. I'm a fixer. I always went for the underdog. I'm a fixer. Like I said, you cannot change people. I can't change people.
That's good.
My father, I mean, that's a whole nother story, but, you know, raised in church, my dad was choir director, mother was Sunday school teacher. We were the church, but my father had an affair. My father cheated on my mother, and multiple times, I guess. One I didn't when I was little. And so, and when I was 13 or so, you know, we moved around, and they got divorced, and about 16, he remarried some person who, thank God I didn't have to live with them. I call her an evil stepmother. But he was also passive, so he chose what he chose, and he was not in my life past about 16 or 17. And he came, I think, to my wedding reception, and he came around when my kids were babies. Now, my kids are in their 30s, so I have not had a relationship with my father. So I feel like that's part of it. You know, no mentor, no father figure to say, do this, do that. You know, that was probably part of it. I mean, I was an A student. I was in band. I played the flute. I worked at Target. I was a good worker. I mean, there was no issue. You know, I didn't get into trouble. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do, you know, none of that was happening. But I found myself in this situation where, oh, you know, no one's ever going to love me. But you know, it's like, how is that possible that you allow somebody to? And my friends were like, oh, let me go beat him up, let me go, and I'm like, no, because that'll make things worse, you know, and it was like, and I finally left that situation. I wasn't journaling at the time. I have one little note that I wrote about it, and nobody really, I didn't have anybody to step in to even, maybe my mom didn't know what to do, I don't know. I think everything she tried to do as a single parent, I rebelled and went the opposite direction, right? So. She's, you know, it's not her fault. But somehow I got out of that situation, you know, and then there's so many other people that don't leave, they're, and so much more happens to them. I saw that in the emergency room, you know, they can't leave, and you can't get them out of there, even though I sit there and say, we can file a report today.
So how did you get out of that situation? Was it like you said, you started to look within, like, okay, I don't deserve this, like, I love myself. Like, how did you get out of that? Did you have a therapist?
No, I wish I knew, because he didn't have a car and he was driving my car recklessly all the time. And to this day, I still don't like to be the passenger. Even when my kids are driving. I'm like, don't drive like that, because I think that's part of that's part of that time period where I'm fearful of that. And so I don't run around, you know, I don't have anxiety from that, but I think that's where that comes from. And so I think I either just quit talking to him, something happened, but about 3 months later, I wanted to see him. I wanted to see what was all that about. What was all, I mean, I went
closure.
I went to work, I couldn't open my mouth. You know, I couldn't eat. I mean, I was so, you know, I don't think I had any broken bones. I don't even think there was a bruise, but you can bruise your bones, and you know, you can still feel hurt. I mean, I was kicked.
Yeah, well, mental abuse is way worse than physical.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It was not good. It wasn't a good time. But when I saw him, he was thin. He was not a huge person, and I actually felt like so much bigger.
Yeah.
So whatever happened in that time period, I was just, it was totally different. Now, he tried to call every birthday and apologize, and I think he went to counseling and whatever, and he found me on Facebook and wanted to be friends, and I'm like, you know what, you're a part of my past, but you're not a part of my future. Yeah. And you're a part of the journey, but I can't be, you know, I can't be friends with you. I wish you well, and I'm glad you're doing better and this, that, and the other, but
good for you.
And then jump off the cliff.
Rolling, I'm
I have a
Also, while I
question.
got y'all on here,
rolling,
make
I'm
sure
rolling,
y'all
I'm
take the
rolling, I'm
time out
rolling.
real quick and help you out, help your boy out. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and make sure you comment.
Just follow the page, bro.
Follow the page, and I
Follow
have a
the wave.
question.
Question.
So, as a therapist, like people are always coming to you, like with their problems, like laying it all out. Like, do you find that like sometimes after you clock out, if you ever clock out, because I don't know if you ever clock out,
No.
but it's like their problems, does it weigh on you? And do you find yourself thinking about people like in your everyday life? Like, do you get sad at times? Like, I feel like that's just hard. Like, I feel like it would be, because when I was younger, I used to want to get into social work. But then I thought about it, like dealing with kids and like those kids going through things in their family, and then me having to go home in my bed and like not knowing if they're okay. It's like, that's hard.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. I think the hardest population for me to work with in the emergency room was homeless. Because I can't help them. It's like I can give them resources, I can give them shelters, and of course, if they're doing drugs, they can't go to a shelter because you can't do drugs while you're in the shelter.
Nope.
And if you have a drinking issue, then you want to wake up and go get an alcohol, and you can't
Yep.
do that if you're in the shelter. So that was by far like that was tough. You know, I don't want to see anybody like be homeless, not have food to eat. I'm an empath, so I don't know if you know what an empath is.
What is that for the people that don't?
That's a person who feels other people's emotions. And so, and there's probably different degrees to being, it's not just a person who's empathetic, but it's somebody who actually, like, if I see a squirrel get run over, I'm like, you know, in tears, or, you know, if I see a dog, it's like, and that just, I have to really put that out of my head, or I'll be thinking about it all day long. I don't like to watch the news because it's all
Me either.
negative.
Same.
And I can really absorb. It's almost like it's happening to you, but it's you know it's not. I mean, you're not letting delusional or anything. You're not like, oh, this is happening. But so that's difficult. Therapists really need to do self-care. I mean, we need an outlet. We need, you know, I'm a big Mavs fan, and unfortunately,
That's why you need therapy
unfortunately, it's
yourself.
like that was my stress management. And now I'm so sad.
I called her when Luka got traded. She didn't even know. I remember I called her. I was like, yo, she's like, no, he didn't. I'm like, he just got traded.
I mean, that put me into depression.
Well, thanks, Jerome, for sending her on a spiral.
I figured she was the first one to know. She's the biggest
Don't
Mavs fan.
jump.
I bought my
Just
Laker
Luka.
Luka jersey the next day.
Yeah.
So no, you have to take care of yourself. And so there are times in the emergency room. You know, when I worked, I would drive home and just be thinking about something that happened that day. Or sometimes you don't, and that's the issue: is you don't process it. It's going to come up. It's going to come up at some point. But no, there's been times where after a session, you know, I've just cried. It's
Yeah.
like you hear. I remember in the inpatient unit, we would work as a team. And the psychiatrist, at one point, doctors were asking, we were talking to them, and we decided, let's go together, and then we'll get information that the doctors are asking, then they leave, and we'll stay if we have other information we need to get. That way, they're not having to say the same thing all the time. And there was one lady who, man, her story was just you just can't make that stuff up. And I remember just looking at the psychiatrist, we were holding back tears. I mean, it was like, we're human.
Yeah.
Right? We're human, and we have emotions too. So I think I have to process that. There are some things that move me. I'm not a poet, but I wrote a poem in the inpatient unit when I was in, I don't know if I was working there or as grad school, someone who had jumped in front of a truck, and
Damn.
he survived, but he had, you know, injuries, and he came to the inpatient unit. He was not in a good place. And that just really, like, you know, touched me. And so I wrote a poem, and I've shared that poem many times. I think I shared it with you.
Yeah, you did.
And then what happened to George Floyd? I wrote a poem.
He
back
didn't
then.
comply.
Well, I still wrote a poem because it was a tragic. I mean, it's anything that's tragic. like,
Yeah.
That really kind of just, you know, hits me. You know, I don't just sit down and write poetry. I don't think I can do that.
So the poetry
But-
could be like an outlet for you then, to get it out, or your blog.
Yeah, I started the blog. I wanted to start a blog, but of course, we all struggle with something, and I have some perfectionism tendencies, and so it's like, oh, I need to have the perfect website. I need to have the perfect this, the perfect that. It's like, no, why don't you just do it? And then, so I went outside of my comfort zone. and I went on WordPress, and I just kind of learned WordPress on my own and said, okay, let me just, yeah, it's still the same template I started with, I haven't perfected it, I haven't changed it up. But I was doing Monday motivations, and I was, sharing some of my story and trying to do what I didn't care how many followers I really had. I just, if I could reach one person,
That's
that
enough.
makes it all worthwhile. So, but that was just putting my thoughts to paper and trying to do my part. I think we all can do our part, We can sit on social media and just, are we really doing our part? And there's been times where there's been something about homeless on social media, or people dogging them and just talking crap and smack and all that. And I'm like, okay, what are you actually doing? Have you
Right.
gone and sat with the homeless, and have you listened to their story?
Get in the field.
Right? Have you listened to them? Because
So,
it's not what people think it is.
yeah, and a lot of that is mental too, right? Like a lot of people that are homeless, they have a lot of
Could
mental
be, but I
things.
think we're all, we can all be a paycheck away from,
Being homeless.
I've always said, I've always kept
Yeah.
have a Mazda CX-5, and I've always said, well, if something happens, I can always live in that if I have to. But if I lose that, I'm pretty much,
You
gonna
young
have
folks
no home.
who live in Texas, you can get unemployment when you get fired, okay? Don't forget, unemployment goes in Texas, okay? If you walk around here homeless like you're crazy as hell.
It doesn't pay a
Okay.
whole lot. Now, I wanted to back up to what he, at the break he said, I love me.
Yes.
Not me, but he loves me.
He loves him. Unc loves
I
Unc.
love me.
And so that is something that is critical, because I started I was in the emergency room again, in the inpatient unit. I started asking people, because what I was hearing was, like, I would start asking people, do you like yourself? No, people do not, and you can, I bet you.
Why are
if I
you
took-
shaking your head like
if
that?
I
That's
took
Raise your
everybody-
hand.
If I took everybody into a room, there'd be at least one person in here that says, I do not, I really don't.
Can anybody honestly?
Which one of you niggas don't like
Well,
yourself?
You don't gotta
call 'em-
answer
don't
that.
call-
Don't put 'em on
Don't
a-
call 'em out, because that's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
But
Sometimes I do.
You the only one
sometimes
that
I
be
don't.
drinking
I
at
don't
8 in the
know-
morning.
I don't know how many.
I love me, no matter when I drink. You snort powder at 8 in the morning, what's
I've
the
never done
difference?
cocaine.
What's the difference?
I don't like it.
What's the
Dope
difference?
dealers
It's not the breakup.
Junkies.
It's the thoughts surrounding the breakup, right? And then we start asking questions, and then it comes down to, do you like, and that's a tough one, because people will be like, it's like, okay, then you know what? We have to start there. We can't start way up here at the top of the hill.
We gotta start
We have to
within.
start at the bottom of the hill. We have to start
Get to the
with
roots.
ourselves, because when we start liking ourselves, and so as a single person, and I'm single, you go on social media here on Valentine's Day, it's, partners and, all that kind of stuff.
Fuck 'em, girl.
And then you're seeing all the fake stuff that, all the people that make it look like they have this.
She
perfect
still
life.
Right.
cheated.
Or Galentine. Shout out to the gals.
Yeah, they ain't got no perfect life. But people that have a
That sounds like a
good
little hating in
life-
that voice.
People that have a really good life are not posting it on social media. They're living it.
Yes,
They're not.
I agree with that.
So-
I agree with that too.
I mean, some
Yeah.
people are, not across the board.
Yeah.
But, so what I did, I did a collage one, I don't like to do selfies. I don't like pictures of me. I don't like any of that. But we all struggle with something, right? I mean, so I've got the thing about pictures. But, so I took the selfies I have taken over the years. I made a little collage for Valentine's Day one year, and I found something online that said, I love me. And that's what I posted for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And I encourage all my people, my clients who are going through a breakup or who are struggling with not finding a relationship. Lots of people are looking for a relationship. That's a struggle right now. And it's very interesting, because I have the group, the young people, late 20s, 30s. I want a family, I want kids, I want a relationship. And then I switch gears and I go to the couple who's,
Fighting
wanting
each
to
other
get
every night.
divorced. They can't, they've been married 20 years, they can't communicate.
Tired of
they
each
can't-
other.
He's been
And
sleeping with
I
the
will
assistant.
I will say the majority, if not 99% of the issues in a marriage were there. Maybe not 99, I don't want to say a
Before?
statistic that's not there. I asked the question, are the struggles you're going through now, was any of this there when you met or when you were dating? And nine times out of 10, it's a yes. But I focused on the positives. He was, whatever was happening.
Potential.
And we date the potential. You're right. We date the potential, and we can't do that. We have to say, if this person stays like this for the rest of his life or her life, can you deal with that?
Hell
You
no.
might have to. And that's what you have to look at. So
So you said loving yourself is important. How do you like? What's the first step, or how do you start to love yourself? What resources would you give someone that answers no, I don't love myself?
well, you have to start with being kind to yourself. And but again, you have to be aware when you're not, right? Because some people don't even, it's so automatic. We talk to ourselves so automatically that we have to know what is our inner critic telling us. And then we have to be kind to ourselves. I've had people that had high scores on depression, and when we did a self-compassion test, because there's a test for that, and there's a website that's really good for that, has meditations on it, talks about what self-compassion is, what it's not. Next session she comes to, maybe it was the next two, I can't remember, but her depression was down. And, we measure that. I measure it every couple weeks or so, depending on how long they're in session. And I've said, what's contributing to that? And she said, well, when we identified that I wasn't being kind to myself, I started being kind to myself, and that made a huge difference in mood, how she treats herself, in everything. So depression is going to decrease. I mean, you're not going to be as depressed if you're not beating yourself up all the time.
So by being kind to yourself, you mean not talking negatively.
Not talking negative
To yourself.
And being kind to yourself, accepting who you are. We have to accept, and I don't know if I coined this phrase, but I'm sure it's somewhere out there. We have to accept where we've come from, to know where we are, to be able to know where we're going, or to understand where we're going. I mean, a lot of people are not accepting of their past. They don't like their past. They have not accepted it. It's holding them back, and they need to create a new meaning to their past, forgive themselves in order to move forward. I mean, but if we're stuck in the past, if we're stuck with whatever happened to us, then we're not going to be able to move forward.
All right.
And you have to have a willingness to love yourself, because some people don't want to. They're comfortable not loving themselves.
Or maybe all their life it starts when you're young, right? So maybe growing up, they didn't have the supportive family. I know we were talking about family drama and childhood trauma. Like, it all starts there.
Starts there. And I now I've been doing it for a while, I do a childhood emotional neglect questionnaire, because I think a lot of people, even therapists, don't know that childhood emotional neglect it's a real thing. You may not be able to say you had it, because there's something missing when you get emotionally neglected. You could have the best childhood ever, or have a good childhood, and still come out with some emotional neglect, and that affects relationships.
In your adulthood.
Yeah, in your adulthood and everything. So it's amazing when people identify, oh wow, this is why I think the way I do, this is why I behave the way I do because of this, and we connect. We have to connect things that are happening to us in adulthood. People don't understand that, but they're like, I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want to go back to childhood, but it's like we have to make the connection.
Got to get to the source.
Because it all comes from childhood. Your memories are made in childhood. They're formed in the midbrain. Your midbrain, that's why your brain and your body are always connected. So it's there, right? And I haven't it's taken me a long time to make some connections. I was hit by a car when I was 11, but not hurt or anything. They hit my bike, and I was flown off.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, I didn't think about that throughout it's there, it's part of the journey. But I think only a couple of years ago when we were going across, I've never liked crossing the street. It's just been one of those things where I've always been afraid to cross the street. And so I run really fast. But I've never really thought about it in a way of
Why you felt like that, where that fear is coming
from.
from.
It didn't bother me. It just was part of who I was.
Subconsciously back there, it was like,
I guess so, probably. And so going to the Mav games, we'll go to Market Center and we'll run across the street and dart to get to the train.
You do run across the street.
We run across the street.
You do.
And I tell my kids, I go, people will be running. I'm like, no, the light is, it's not time for us to go. And people will there'll be cars coming and they're running. And I'm the one standing back going, I'm waiting for the sign to tell me to cross.
Yeah.
And so I finally said, why do I have such a fear of her? And I went, you were hit by a damn car when you were little.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's real.
We got to get you back on here. We're getting short on time. I would love to get you back on here, but we got to close out. But this was really, really
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Hatter,
Therapeutic and
for coming on the
powerful.
couch and blessing us with your knowledge.
Tony Parker's got the Finals MVP.
Jordan,
He's got more rings.
Jordan, bro. Don't do that. It's a commercial for the merch.
Please focus on the merch, because I don't know anything about that.
And the podcast.
Too Broke for Therapy, new season, merch, coming soon.
Yeah.
Where?
Too Broke for Therapy.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
When?
When?
Coming soon.
In your face, bitch.
That's it. Yeah, yes, that's it.
All right, y'all. It's Too Broke for Therapy. We got Ms. Hatter on the couch. Thank you for coming down. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of people in our comments hitting you with questions. Please send us questions to the chat. We're going to shoot them to Ms. Hatter. We're going to send her information out. If you guys need somebody, you want somebody to talk to other than the hotlines that we provided, she's made it very clear.
No wait list.
No wait list. Please don't hesitate to call if you need somebody. Hit us up. Hit me. Cake. Take. Monk. Too Broke for Therapy. Yeah.
Yo.
Peace. Later. Good.